Hello, everybody. Welcome to our parent networking series. For those who are online and those who are in the building or on the video call with us, welcome. Today, I apologize. I'm finishing getting a cold, so my voice is a little weird today, so I apologize for that. Today, we're going to talk about supporting healthy consistency and boundaries at home. As always, I like to start by introducing myself. I currently work for the Y of Greater Seattle Social Impact Center Outpatient Behavioral Health, which is just a fun thing to roll off your tongue when you're talking about where I work. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and clinical director in the state of Washington. I have worked as a therapist for 20 plus years, and I worked in daycare before that. And I've had the privilege of being on contracts over the last 16 plus years with the Muckleshoot Tribe. And currently, my role is in our early childhood education program, providing social emotional support for our students and our families and our staff. All right. So understanding consistency and boundaries. So boundaries that we're talking about here are really where the limits are, right? What are the expectations that your family has? They could be family rules. They could just be expectations that are verbal. They could be written down. They could be just unspoken boundaries that your family has. Consistency is knowing that things are safe and dependable and that there's a plan, right? So that kids know. And children, mostly children of all ages, really crave consistency, and they also can crave understanding where the boundaries are. It really helps them to figure out how the world around them works, but also how the greater world works as they grow. Consistency and boundaries are great for supporting a sense of safety and attachment and connection to those. And it really brings calm just to unpredictability. And really, oh, truly, our parents, caregivers, and guardians should be the most reliable thing a child has in their life. They should be able to just know that you will be present when you say you're going to be present. You're going to be there to pick them up. You're going to be there to do all the things. And if you're not, then there's an apology and kind of understanding about why that didn't happen. So every family's consistency and boundaries look different. I think there are different things from whether the way the adults and caregivers were raised themselves, legacy, culture in the family, culture of the family. All of these things bring a different look to what consistency and boundaries look like. And everybody's level of consistency and boundary changes depending on the family's needs. You know, if you have tiny, tiny kids versus teenagers, it's going to be looking a little different. But adding consistency and boundaries does take time. Sometimes if you start from the beginning, it makes it a little bit easier. But if it's something you're adding now, take small steps, right? All families and all kids sort of boycott the new changes. So sometimes they push back a lot on that. Communication and, you know, maybe sometimes visuals can be really helpful, and being flexible to know that it changes over time, right? As kids go older, we have to kind of be a little bit, we kind of have to pull back a little bit, but maybe be consistent in some more areas. And so we do just know that it's going to look different for each family, and also look different depending on the ages of the children in the family, as well as just the kids in general, because every kid brings their own sort of fun to the party. So benefits of being consistent. So benefits of being consistent are, you know, uh, um, things like reduced uncertainty and fear. Hello,
Because Ellen and Fabian are
welcome.
well, they're in Birth to Dream basically. They do this cute.
So this can reduce misunderstanding, the misinformation. Families also increase communication. It brings more connection and relationships, and it also models healthy relationships and what those look like through a child's lifetime, which then helps them choose the relationships they want to have in their life as they grow, and what they want their families to look like one day if they choose to have one. Oops, hold on, I pushed some buttons. Thank you for so benefits of boundaries. Boundaries, like I said, are really the limits and expectations of what is around. Good morning to those who just arrived. These can be physical rules. They can also be just understanding expectations that your family has. So The benefits of boundaries are understanding the expectations. This reduces worry because then they're not always guessing. And also, when the boundaries and consistency change, that adds a new level of anxiety because they don't know, is this the day I get a consequence for this, or is this the day it's okay? Is this the day I'm allowed to do this and this day I'm not? So it becomes confusing. So boundaries and consistency sort of reduce that, helping children understand how their family works and what the expectations of their family are. Is every Saturday chore day, right? Like, I know growing up in my family, every Saturday morning before we got to do anything fun was chore day. That was a family expectation. So if I boycotted cleaning the bathroom, no fun was had for me that day, right? So those are expectations and understanding how your family works, right? Limits can also help keep kids safe. It also keeps kids safe in relationships. And also, again, it helps provide security and reduce anxiety. And benefit of both consistency and boundaries can really reduce worries and fears and anxieties because they know what's going to happen. So, who might benefit the most from boundaries and consistency? I'm going to be really honest with you. Every child on the planet can benefit from this. But there are subgroups of kids that maybe benefit a little bit more. And this is our children who have any neurodiversities, so autism spectrum, ADHD, any other sort of developmental delays, children with anxiety and depression, children who are in placement because their lives have been kind of upside down and topsy-turvy a lot. Having consistency and boundary can help. Fears of transition. There are some kids who really worry about change and transition, and boundaries and consistency can give that to them. Any past trauma or abuse, and also those who've recently experienced a shift in safety. Sometimes really teeny shifts in safety can change the way a child feels safe. So, say a caregiver had to go on went on vacation for a couple days, and when they came back, the child felt a little unsafe because that never happened before. And so being able to bring back that consistency and boundaries that were there before really does help that child feel safe and start building that trust again and understanding of what safety looks like. Excuse me, guys. Okay. I'm trying to get it. Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse. So, ways to add consistency to your family. So I think having a calendar, or even if it's not a calendar, having a conversation about what's happening during the week, what's happening during the day, what's expectations. So if this week there's a dentist appointment for everybody, let's tell them on Sunday so they know that it's coming. 3 more sleeps till this is happening. If there's visits for kids who are on placement, if they can look at a calendar and they know, okay, on the days with the teddy bear, those are visit days. On the days that there are no teddy bears, they don't get to go anywhere, right? Like, calendars and visuals can be really helpful, and this can help you have conversations with your children about what's coming, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a dentist appointment, whether it's a no school day. We've got a lot of kids in our programs here who, just trying to understand that, like, today's a school day, these are weekend days, right? And so being able to have those conversations, and whether that happens at a family dinner, whether that's happening at a bedtime routine, those expectations can be really helpful and help children provide that consistency. They know that you, as their grown-up, will tell them what's happening as soon as they're able to know, right? Like, here's what's happening in our lives. Also, clear expectations of the family rules and expectations, right? So this kind of is the idea that, like, when you're learning to ride your bike, you only stay in the driveway, right? Or we only go on the sidewalk, right? And if you go on the road, there's a consequence, right? And that consequence kind of has to be sort of the same every time, right? And so kids know that the limit is, I can only ride on the sidewalk. I'm not allowed to ride in the street, because they've understand it's been told to them. But if, like, one day they're allowed to ride in the street, and then the next day they're only allowed to ride in the driveway, and the next day they're allowed to drive in the street again, it gets really confusing for them because they don't know where their rules are. And so sometimes that causes them to push the boundaries a little bit more every day to see if it's still there, or it gets them really confused and they're like, I'm not riding my bike anymore because I don't know where the boundaries are. So this is where being able to add those to your, like, being able to talk about those and be able to say, remember, we all talked about it, this is what the rule is, helps a lot. And also following through on those is also really important. If you're saying next time you do that, you don't get to play on your tablet for the rest of the evening, and then they do that, and then 2 minutes later you give them their tablet, that gets very confusing for them because they don't understand what the rules and the boundaries are about it. Because yesterday it was I got it taken away, and today is I got it 5 minutes back, right? And so when we talk about whether it's timeouts or taking toys timeout, or for our older kids being grounded, if it's going to be what it's going to be, let's talk about what those expectations and those are going to be, because this will help your children understand not only how your family works, but also understand that rules work in a different, that's the way rules work outside in the real world too. All right. Adding support and consistency to just supporting your child. This is what's really important, is to be present and listen, right? It sounds kind of easy. Some days it can be hard depending on how much you have a super chatter of a child. I was a chatterbox. I'm pretty sure my parents got tired of that. Um, but being able to listen and be present is really important, because if they know that you can listen for the little things about how silly my day is at school, when I come to you with a big thing, you're also going to listen and be there for me, right? Being attentive and being validating my feelings. Wow, it sounded like your day was really hard and you got really frustrated. Being able to say that and know that you heard them and you could see what they were feeling really adds to the consistency that you are safe and I will trust you with my feelings and my thoughts later. This is where we're giving space to that relationship. And every day it's those simple, tiny things that we do really consistently that builds that for when the big things need to be talked about, your children know that you're there for them. And this goes for whether you're an auntie, whether you're an uncle, whether you're a teacher, whether you're, the best neighbor ever, or whether you're the mom or the dad. Either way, all of this stuff really is part of that small things that we do to grow consistency and boundaries. Doing what you say and saying what you mean. It's sounding like the old adage, right? Being able to follow through with what you're going to do. So this really is, if there's a consequence, we're going to follow through on that. This also means that if you're going to pick them up, that you're going to be there, right? Or if you're going to come to their soccer game, or if you're going to go to their dance recital, if you're going to go to anything, that you show up. And if you don't show up, you talk to them about why it didn't happen. This is what kids love. I've talked to many kids who I say, well, remember you get to go home soon. They're like, I don't know who's waiting for me at home. That's really hard for some kids to not know that. That causes extra worry and anxiety for them. And so we really want to be able to talk about it, open up, do what say what you're going to say, but make sure that you can do what you say. If you can't do it, don't say it. And so we really want to make sure that just that communication, and that you're being really clear, and that you are there to listen and to be able to have conversations with. This also means that you also have those boundaries and those rules about things, right? And so just know that that is really important to just providing consistency and boundaries for kids. How to bring consistency when change happens. So I talk about this because life goes lots of craziness, right? Like, let's be honest, like several years ago, who thought we were gonna like shut down the world for a bit, right? Who knew, so we never know what the world's going to happen, right? But being able to talk about when change happens, so if you guys know that something's going to happen, whether kids are going to be put in a new placement, whether you're going to move to a new house, whether a friend next door is moving, whether you're going to a new school, whether you're changing the couch in your house, being able to talk to kids about these kind of things can be really helpful, and being able to talk about it in age appropriate ways. So we're not going to tell the 3 or 5-year-old all the gritty details about all the things, right? Like, the couch cost $2,700 and I got it the other day and the man named Fred's coming to bring it to me, right? Like, they don't care about that. But hey, I know that you really love this couch and it's so cozy, but because it's broken, we're going to get a new one. And that new one's going to be this color, and it's going to come, and the delivery guys are going to come and bring it to us. It sounds silly, but these things are really helpful for kids when they know what's going to happen. And also being willing to answer the questions that they might have. So sometimes if you notice a child brings up the same topic again, say, hey, you keep talking about that. Do you have any questions about that? Because sometimes kids don't know when to ask or how to ask questions. So making sure that you're offering, hey, what do you know, before maybe you offer tons of information. Listen and validate feelings. It's always hard for change to happen, right? Always hard to change to happen. So Always listen and validate. It's okay to be mad about it. It's okay to be frustrated about it. It's okay to be excited and relieved about it. So being able to be present for that is always important. And also when change happens, try to stick to the schedule you have for your family life as best you can. Sometimes that's not possible, but I think the one place that I would really recommend sticking to is how can you make the bedtime routine as same as possible. That bedtime routine, whether it's 15 minutes with your teenager or half an hour with your younger kids, is sometimes like their favorite part of the day because that part of the day they know they get just you and they don't have to share it with anybody else. And they can have the talk and they can have the cuddle and you guys can read stories. And sometimes that can really reduce fears and anxieties when everything else is kind of topsy turvy in the world. So, what to do when the life hands you lemons? So, let's just be honest. The world, like I said, is weird. And if sometimes we have just a whole bit of time where we just get a lot of bad things happen, right? And so just remember, we aren't robots. So your life and your schedule can change the way it needs to. But like I said, kids like predictability. So if we're able to talk about what needs to change, what needs to be recessed. Let's talk about this together. Things can be really helpful when we're talking to kids about what's going to change and what's going to happen. Also, like I said, letting kids know any age appropriate information about what's happening. If kids don't know stuff, they put puzzle pieces together. And as a therapist, I've heard a lot of interesting stories from kids who've taken puzzle pieces from lots of different situations and tell me about what's happening. And then I have to go to parents and go, can you tell me what's happening? Because I'm very confused. Because kids, they don't get their question answered. They will try to fit their puzzle pieces and make the picture themselves. And then also try your best, give yourself grace because sometimes you guys need a little grace too in this whole thing. And you're going to have feelings about things because days are frustrating and days are hard. And being a caregiver and a parent and a guardian are hard things. So just know some days the schedule isn't going to work and you're never going to have bedtime routine. And the other days it's going to work like just perfectly. But know that you're doing your best and you're trying your best because that's what your kids need. They need you to be you because you're their parent and you're the one that they were given as their leaders in life. So just give yourself that grace as well. So I wanted to talk about a couple other things about other places to work on consistency and boundaries. I think school and daycare is one, not only the school and daycare themselves, but about sharing information and having a good relationship with those that are at the school or daycare and being on the same page when the situation happens. I think potty training is a great kind of place that this could be, or if there's other behavior issues that are happening, because if you're doing it at home and we're able to do it at school, then it's the same everywhere. Also, when the kids know that parents and guardians talk to the school, it helps them know that one, we're all on the same page, can't get away with anything. And two, there's more people to love and care for them. So, really being that consistency with the school and caregivers, I think, is important. Another place is having healthy boundaries with friends. This is probably going to be more important as your kids get older. But sometimes there are friends that take advantage of kids, or there are friends who just don't have great relationships. So what does a good friendship look like? What do good friendship boundaries look like? I also say to kids, if you don't want to do something with a friend, you can always use the my grown-up said I can't go kind of question because your parents are there to support you and help you set boundaries, right? So how do we set boundaries with good friendship as well? And this also gets modeled as how we as grown-ups are having friendships with our grown-ups around us as well too. So what kind of friend are you as a grown-up and what does that look like and model? Also family consistency. So we all have big families, right? And so how do we model and show consistency and good relationships with families outside the home, but also making sure that we're supporting what your child needs and wants from the relationships rather than the grown-ups. And I say this because sort of the next one is our consistency with how our bodies and how we want them touched and not touched. I think one of the hardest things to talk about is what that looks like, right? Where our body is safe for others to touch, who's allowed to touch our bodies, and also when we want to hug people and who we don't want to hug. Sometimes, especially as females in the world, we get messages that we're supposed to hug everybody, even though some people make us feel uncomfortable. And this kind of stuff starts when we're early. And so that's why at daycare, we have lots of options for greeting, whether you want a hand hug, whether you want a high five, whether we do like cool, knuckles, or we get a hug. We try to give our kids a lot of options to sort of support that idea that their body may not be ready for big hugs and cuddles from people they don't really know. Even if they're family or even if they're teachers you see every day, kids should be able to sort of make some of those decisions and have their grown-ups and parents and caregivers support them with that. So guys, we're almost done. This is the bottom line. The children in your life deserve you to show up for every part of their life and be the best that you can be. And some days the best is just a little bit, and some days the best is awesome, but your kids need you and your kids need you to be consistent. Kids do better when they understand the world around them and they understand expectations and they know who is safe and they know what is safe, right? And being consistent and having boundaries will support your children understanding also how the world works outside of your home, but also how relationship works. And so that they're able to protect their own bodies and their own self and their own relationships as they grow outside their home. So, well, that is it for today. I really thank you. It's so fun to actually have some families here with us today. We're going to stop recording right now.